Hello, my name is Gabe, and this is a little showcase and tutorial video about the map widget asset. I'll try to show most of the functionalities and the variables that you can tweak in the widget. Let's look around the example map first. We have some mobs, quite a lot of them actually. We have some static poles. We have some mineable objects and the boss as well. Which is just a bigger mob, pretty much. Um, so let's look into the widget in the game. Of course, I get a pink one now. So we have a minimap, which I'll go into a bit later. First of all, I would like to show you the normal map. Now, this is a blueprint pack, so please ignore the non-existent artwork of the of the pack. It looks like this at the moment, which is not really nice, but as I said, let's ignore that. So there's lots of things going on already. We have the axes for the static poles. If I move, for example, here, you can see that this one is that, and we have 5 of them. We have the mobs, which are disappearing because they are sort of dying. That's just because so I can show you that the map handles the disappearance of the actors as well. And before they all disappear, well, they're disappearing very quickly now. So the red ones are the aggressive ones, which is just a boolean. The yellow ones are the non-aggressive ones. They're not actually attacking. We have the player with some vision thing. Not sure what should I call this. We have the skull for the boss, and we also have some special widgets for the minables. If I try to mine, which is just pressing a few interactions, you can see that they went down and now they are replenishing. So I can sort of mine them. If I mine them long enough, they disappear. And yeah, we of course can pan the map. We can zoom. We also have categories. Before the mobs disappear completely, I show you that they are bound to this category. We have the statics. We have the boss. We have the minables and players. We don't have waypoints, but quickly I will place them down. I'll go into the menu a bit later as well. And I can turn them on and off as well. All right, let's look into the blueprints and I'll see you there. All right, so we have the map menu here. We have the map widget inside that, which is the core widget of the pack. And there are quite a few variables in 4 different categories. Let's go into the general first. So we have vertex screen multiplier, which is basically a base zoom, so to say. So 10 word units is 1 pixel. Of course, after that comes the zooming, so that will be different later on. We have the map origin, which is pretty much where should the map's center be in the world. We have the pen centered pawn option, which centers the panning to the owning pawn when the widget is opened. We have the dynamic refresh interval, which is, as you could see, we have some dynamic icons. They move around. So if I set this to 1 second of refresh time, you will see that they are moving but lagging because they are refreshing every 1 second. If I set this to 1/30, we have a 30 FPS refresh rate, so to say. So they are moving quite well. The little wiggling is due to the pixels, not really the refresh rate. Alright, and we have the background, which is a special background. So if you look at the map, you can't really go outside this map. So it limits the zooming as well. as the panning. So if I turn this background off, then you will see that we can pretty much zoom out far more, and we can pan the camera, not the camera, but the map quite far away. This will be affected by a few other things, but we'll go into that in a short bit. Alright, let's look at the zoom. So we can turn off the zooming capability. So I'm scrolling, but nothing happens. We have a few zoom modes. So map center. If you look at the little white circle, that's the map origin, which is pretty much where the focus will be. So wherever I am and wherever my cursor is, it will focus there, zoom. If we change this to screen center, then we will have something similar, but it will be the center of the current screen. So pretty much the pen. So wherever I'm penning, that will be the focus. And we have the cursor, which is pretty much wherever my mouse is. So if I focus on that and zoom in and out, then that one will stay in place, but everything else will move accordingly. Alright, so we have the zoom speed, which is quite straightforward. So now we are zooming far quicker, and now we are zooming far slower. Now this scaled option makes it more linear, so to say. So if I turn this off, we will get to 0.1 very quickly by steps of 0.1, and we will get to 10 very slowly by steps of 0.1. So we'll see that zooming out is very quick, and zooming in is very, very slow. From 1. So if you look at the base zoom, because you will take 9 steps to go to minimum and 90 to get to maximum. So this is quite a good way to make it linear for the user. We also have the minimum maximum icon size, which pretty much limits the icon size. So if I set this to 0, you'll see that zooming out makes them very, very small, pretty much pixels. And setting this to 16 will make it quite unreadable when zooming out, because they stay at least 16 pixels. Maximum is similar, so actually I'm not going to really change that. So you see that when I'm zooming in, the axis grow in size, but at this point, somewhere here, yeah, they start, they stop increasing in size, and they will just stay 64 pixels. Alright, so that's for the zoom. Alright, so next we have the panning. We can turn it off as well. So now I can move it around. But if the zooming is the zooming mode is to mouse, then we can still sort of move around with the mouse. So if you want to disable that, you might want to change to a different zoom mode, or just turn off the zoom as well. Next we have the mouse button for the panning. So you can set this to middle mouse button, for example. In which case I can move with the right, but can move with the middle. We also have a panning limit, which is more more useful when we have endless panning due to not being restricted by the background image. So if I set this, then you will see that if I zoom out, a bit and then try to move around, I can't really leave this box, which can be set through the pending word limit. If I decrease this to that much, then you will see that I can move even less around. So in the categories we have quite a few options. First of all, we can define categories, which have also a few options. So the key is used for turning certain icons on and off. So if I switch to the graph, you can see that I add an icon using the category statics, and this is the same key as this one. Now the titles, of course, can differ. So if you want to show something else on the left side, then you can just set it here. We also have an icon, and we also have two booleans, which I will come back a bit later. Oh, we also have the tint, which just sets a different color. Whoops. So outside here we have the categories shown side and categories hideable. So if we turn this off, there's no categories on the left side. If we turn off the hideable, then we also turn off the shown side, because this makes them always visible on the map, so you can't turn them off in any way or hide them anyway. And similarly, in the category itself, you can set them to disappear from here, or disable the hideability option there. Alright, so we also have the icon sizes, so I can set it to 64. Then we have some huge categories. Also we have the font, so we can set that to also quite big. And for example, we have some outlines, so they can be tweaked quite a bit. And we have the category hidden opacity, which just sets them sets the opacity when they are turned off, or by this. We can set it to 1 to disable this sort of behavior, despite that they hide the categories. Alright, let's look into the nodes that you can use to add your icons and widgets into the map. First, we're gonna ignore the widget ones. We're gonna roll with the basic icons. So first we have the static icon, which requires an icon, a size, a tint, a category, and the word location. So if we check here, we have the circle, the bluish circle at the middle of the map. And we also have the statics to place an X quite bigger, and we have the statics category. I'm using get all actors of class because this is just an example. You might want to have a proper setup for your actors, so it doesn't really affect the performance. Now this is only running when the map is created, not even when it's opened, but the first time it's created. So this works quite decently this time, but you might want to use a proper setup for this. Next we have the simple dynamic icon, the actor dynamic icon, and the rotating actor dynamic icon. The simple dynamic icon basically is similar to a static icon, but you get the widget and you can remove it, and you can set the location. So there's a set word pos function, and you can also have a remove dynamic widget using this. So if you save this, you can remove it from the map, unlike with the static icons. The actor dynamic icon is fairly simple to the simple dynamic icon, but it uses an actor, and it requires no refreshing. This one requires manual refreshing, so you always have to set the web location again if you change it, which is pretty straightforward because it can't really decide by itself. But this one can ask the actor where the location is and refresh it itself. This also requires an icon size, a tint, and a category. Similarly with the rotating actor dynamic icon, if you check the minimap, you can see this little arrow sort of thing rotates wherever my character is looking. So that is very similar to the actor dynamic icon. It follows the actor, but also follows its your rotation and requires an icon size and a tint. So this you can find here, for example, where we place for the players or the mobs or for the bosses. Yeah, and you can also check this in the HUD, where we have this one for the mobs and the rotating for the player. Alright, we'll continue with the widgets. So let's talk about the widget nodes. So if you look at the map, we have this side cone, which is a unique widget for the map. And it rotates with me, but with an offset. And we also have these minables, which have progress bars and stuff. So you can add these custom widgets with these two nodes. So instead of an icon, you have to add a widget, and the size word location is similar to that. The rest needs to be configured in your own widget. So if you want to have a tint or yeah, pretty much that, then you need to set that there. Now, as for the outer size boolean, if we enable this, we let the widget take care of the resizing for the map. So it has a, show you right away. So it has an interface to resize. And if we look into the, for example, the mineable, then we have this resize function implemented here, and it gives a few things. It gives a size that it should be based on the zoom, gives a scale based on the targeted size. So as you can see, you can still define a size when you add the widget, and it will consider that size as the base size at zoom 1. So it calculates the scale based on the targeted size and the current size, and it also and passes as a scale, and it also passes the zoom if you want to use that. I use that at the direction thingy, which is here, so it uses the zoom. Alright, so that was the static, and the dynamic one has the manual resize and the manual refresh. The manual resize is similar to the auto size. The manual refresh is, for example, the simple dynamic icon uses manual refresh to refresh the position when the set word position is called. You usually want to leave this up to the map, so the actor and the rotating actor, for example, doesn't have this checked, similarly to the resize. So the only thing that uses the manual refresh is the simple dynamic icon. But other than that, you similarly need to add the widget and the size and the category. And you can see these here. So we have the direction widget created and added. We also have the minables created and passed forward to the widget. Here we don't have. And the add dynamic widget icon is getting the widget with manual resize, and the mineable just gets the widget with size and category. Alright, lastly I would like to show you a few different ways to interact with the map from the outside. So we have a few buttons here on the left side. One of them is fairly simple, just places the pawn to the center of the panning. We also have a button to toggle the mobs, which is similar to the category, but we can have some special one here. We have a few click modes. So if I click on the map right now, I get a print about the location. If I click to the center, I should get something close to 0, and that is pretty good, yeah. You might notice that we are getting 0 for Z. This is because we don't exactly know the height there. So you might want to trace from above using a line trace or something to get a better word position. So we have the call, which is similarly using a line trace to call the neutral mobs or non-aggressive mobs to a point. They will move away sometimes because of their very simple AI. And we also have this waypoint mode, which lets us add waypoints very simply to the map. We can just clear these. We also have a category to just turn them on and off. So let's look at how these are done. So the map has quite a few functions that you can call. One of them is the pen to the pawn. The mobs, for example, are toggled by this simple toggle category and set by mobs. This click mode is done with an enum. This is just setting the click mode, and here we have the waypoints. I will come back to this in a second. So here's when we press on the map. You can check this here, so you can have this mouse pressed on the map. You also have some other options. So the mouse pressed, then we want to print if it's print, which is fairly simple. Get cursor where pause. Similarly, when it comes to waypoint, we just get the position and add the simple dynamic icon. Dynamic because we want to save it and maybe delete it later. We can do this with a static. And we also have the mobs, which just tells the player controller to call this call mobs function. And you probably can see a line trace here, yeah, from 10,000 to minus 10,000. Not a very nice solution maybe, but this is just an example. And it calls the non-aggressive mobs there. Alright, so back quickly to the waypoints. So this waypoints array exists to be cleared by this other button. So we iterate through the waypoints and just remove the dynamic widget. Then we clear the waypoints. Alright, more information might be available in the documentations, but for now that's it. Thank you.